Welcome to the Business with Beers podcast. This is the place where we help entrepreneurs expand their business, build their wealth, and generate passive income. I'm your host, Brian Beers, an entrepreneur who's on a mission to inspire growth from everyone around me. Remember that you need to take the actions others won't, and you can live the life that others don't. Please be sure to check out my weekly newsletter that now drops every Thursday. It includes one quote, one tweet, one podcast recommendation, plus some business and investing insight from me. It's short and it's sweet. My goal is to provide you with just a couple gold nuggets to help inspire your growth. Go to brianbeers.com to subscribe. Hello, everyone. I'm excited today to bring you Paul Gallagher. Paul is an entrepreneur who built a multi-seven-figure business from the ground up and then sold it. He is now on a journey to, build another business and teach people, kind of what he's learned. So welcome to the show, Paul.
Thank you for having me.
Awesome. So to start, can you give us an idea of your journey from maybe take us back to 18 years old or so, and then kind of what your life looked like, and then kind of how you got into, your first business, and then we'll kind of get into, kind of the bigger business that you bought and sold. So.
Well, I'll go way back, actually, before 18, middle school, real quick. I think this is where my journey began. In middle school, I would get free lunch. So I grew up poor. I would get free lunch. And what I would do, my friend, who'd always get a lot of money from his dad for supers, like the extra food, I would always been able to get to the lunch line like first or very quickly. He was always like last. So I basically sold him my lunch and then take some of the money and go buy a snack and still have money left over. So that was like my first journey of entrepreneurship. It was kind of funny. But now fast forwarding to when I was 18, I got involved to be a direct care worker, taking care of people with developmental and intellectual disabilities. And this allowed them to be at home. If they move away from their parents, they can move into their own house with roommates. They use Social Security to split the bills. So I started as a direct care worker, and then I always had an entrepreneur spirit. I went to college, got like an associate's degree. I was going to go for like a bachelor's degree, but I'm like, I don't need a bachelor's to start a business. And so I was just driving around. What do I want to do? What do I want to do? And it popped in my head, like I can start my own direct care work business, taking care of doing what I'm already doing.
Okay.
So, but that was at 18, 20, 21 years old. It took me like 2 years. I started at 23. It took me 2 years to really get the mindset to do that.
Okay. To take that risk, to go from the employee to now the owner, right? That's what you're talking about? So
yeah, to go from the known to the unknown.
Yep. So how do you go about learning, you knew what it took to operate like the business, do the job, right? But you didn't know the other side. How do they get customers? How do you manage people? How do you hire people? So how did you go about learning that, or did you not? And you just shot and then you fired and then you aimed later or whatever, what it looked like for you?
So here's what it has come full circle. And here's what I've learned. And it's going to tie into this, that sometimes myself, I think others, try to get as much education and knowledge on something that they want to do. It could be business, health, whatever, get as much as possible, read a bazillion things, but really all that's doing is procrastinating. There's a point where you learned enough to go down that journey and learn from experience. So when I started, I really had no idea what to do. I'm like, okay, payroll, I know I need a payroll system, but what do I do? What do I do with that? How do I bill? So when we were providing care, how do I bill? I had no idea. That's a learning curve. Even though I didn't have much money to even start with, and I needed about 5 to 10 grand to even start. I had like 2 because my friend loaned me it. So the caregivers were amazing. I worked with me and said, hey, Paul, we'll wait until you have to bill. So they basically worked for like 3 or 4 weeks for free. And I was able to start paying the bills.
Oh, wow. That's great.
Yeah, it was unreal. I do know how to motivate people, and I did know how to take care of people with special needs. But other than that, even business, you can read it all you want. Until I actually learned how to do it, was actually doing it.
Yep. Yeah. That's a great lesson too, is that you just got to do it, right? Like a lot of times I think people get stuck in the analysis paralysis, and they just, like you said, they want to know everything, every little detail. They're like, planning out their business card, they're planning all this stuff, and it's like they don't even need it, right? Like you don't even have a business yet. Like just go start figure out how you make $1, then you can make $100, and you make it 10,000, right? Then you make it like more, right? And it scales, but unless you make that first dollar, nothing else really matters. Like it's all ancillary distractions. And so it's pretty cool that you realized that, and it sounded like you just jumped in and then you said, hey, I'm smart. I'm going to figure this stuff out. I'm not going to delay this. So talk to me about what's like the business model? Like, are you renting places and then have people come, or is it like you're going to their homes? Like, what's the business model look like?
Okay. So the way that worked, because I did sell the company, we'll talk about that, I'm sure.
Okay.
So what happened, they basically leased a house or apartment, condo, whatever it is, living arrangement they had with 2 or 3 roommates. They rented that out and paid it through Social Security. And from there, we came in and provided the care, around the clock care.
Got it. So they found their own place, a group of people who needed 24/7, adults that needed care. And then they would find someone to come in and help them with the day-to-day tasks. Okay. And so your company was the company that came in to provide that assistance.
Yes. And we got referrals from the state of Michigan / like the county, because it was Medicaid dollars. And so they paid for the care, and we got referrals from them say, okay, it was Genesis and Home Care, and they provide the care. They got a call. And then once you've done a really good job, the referrals went up and you got more and more calls.
Got it. So I guess the business model was something like, and you could tell me, but you're billing at $40 an hour or whatever, you're paying your people $12 an hour, and then like your margins in the kind of per hour build, arbitrage. Is that right?
That's exactly right. We got paid X, and then from there we pay our caregivers all of our expenses, and then we kept whatever's left. Got
it. So then the more people you can hire, the more homes you can get in, you multiply those billable hours, and that's how you then, I guess, continue to grow it. So how long were you in that business until you transitioned into your next business?
So I had Genesis started in 2012. I was 23. I sold it this year at 34. And I actually started another company called Odyssey Logistics. It was a business that we contracted with Amazon to deliver packages. And that started a couple of years ago.
Okay. So your the business you sold recently was the same business. You just expanded your number of your payroll to your clients, and that's how you grew it. So
from Genesis or from Odyssey?
Let's talk about Genesis first.
Yes. So from Genesis, what we did was we started with 1 or 2 people that lived in their own house. It was probably 2 or 3 around the clock care cases. And then for a whole year, it was almost like a wait and see of how Genesis / Paul did with doing this. And then after a year, they got great reviews. And then now I made a name for myself because we did a great job, and they kept on giving us more and more business from there. So from 2012 to 2013, we only had like 3 cases or 3 homes we serviced 24/7. From 2014 to 2016, it went to like 25 homes. We're getting home a month.
Okay. So it's huge growth. I mean, from 4 to 25. So you had to hire all these extra people, I'd assume, and deal with logistics and all that. What was your biggest challenge in that? Was it finding? Was it retaining? I assume it's the staff, like the people, and dealing with all their challenges.
Yes, but what's crazy is that as we had growing pains, and that's a very real thing, is growing pains. So as we were growing so quickly, some of the systems and some of the things that we thought would work when we maybe had like X amount, a smaller amount of employees or people we served. So let's say like 5 homes, that means like 5 homes where we send caregivers to around the clock care, but it could be like 3 clients per home. So it's like 15 clients. So your problem at 5 homes is maybe having 1 or 2 layers. But then when you have like 25, you need a different type of leadership structure at the office in terms of hiring and now payroll and billing. So it just definitely changed.
Okay. And then at its peak in, I guess, 2022, how many homes were you servicing? How many employees did you have?
So it was 80 employees in 2022, and we serviced approximately 40 people in their own homes.
Okay.
We actually scaled back to our peak. We're at 140 employees and about 50 people, 55 people.
Okay. And so then you had an opportunity to sell the business. Talk to me about that. Like, how did it come about? And we'll go through like the decision process, but how did someone approach you about it, or did you outreach to sell it?
Yeah, I outreached. So one of the business I started in 2018 was a logistics company. Yep. I mentioned. And there was somebody that I kind of got really close to who also had a home care business, senior home care, that he sold. And he referred me to his broker. And so I reached out to his broker and we marketed it. Now here's the deal. I've been thinking about selling. So 2020 was really rough for me in terms of COVID going into 2021. But I've been really wrestling, wanting to sell in order to scale, because I use liquid to scale and a bigger purpose and things of that nature. So I got connected with him finally. I was like, you know what? I threw myself into it. You know what? I'm going to do it. I'm going to sell. And we created everything. And then it was on the market for about 2 or 3 weeks live. We had numerous LOI offers. And we selected one person. Well, my broker kind of did. I didn't like that idea, but he selected them, and it took a year to sell. So it was off the market since March, early April of 2021, and finally closed March 1st of this year. But it was a small private equity group, and
yeah. So what was so for that whole year, are you just like trying to hold steady? Cause you try not to, or is that when you scaled back, but you can't really, because they have expectations of what they're paying as a multiple, or if you grow it, then it's like, you're not going to get paid for your growth unless that was part of the deal. So what did you try to do for that period? Was it just trying to keep the duct tape from popping the holes out of the bucket, or what?
Brian, that's a great question, because that is really the balance. And so for me, that's some other podcast where I shared 2021 was actually one of the worst years of my life, because when I got COVID back, it was end of December going into January, I got affected more mentally than physically, and I'll share this, suicidal ideations, and they call it COVID psychosis. My anxiety went through the roof, and depression. And so
I've heard of this. Yeah.
COVID's awful. I lost weight. It was really bad. So that's what kind of started leading me to want to sell. My wife got diagnosed with autoimmune disease, and then there was she had COVID, and so it was just really bad things going on throughout the whole entire year. And finally got into a groove, started getting healthier and healthier, but I was really removed from the business, and my team really stepped up. So I didn't want to do anything to jeopardize the business. I didn't want to add new businesses. I don't want to take anything away. I don't want to make any. So it was just really coasting for that year and not doing anything, and I would let the buyer know, hey, here's what I'm thinking that could benefit the company. What do you think? So I would involve him into the process.
Okay. Yeah, well, that must have been, super scary between the health challenges, like you said, some of the mental, you just weren't the same person anymore because of it, or temporarily, but then you probably didn't know how long is this going to last. And that, all during you're trying to sell this multi-million-dollar business, and you have 80 people that work for you, and then, all the families that they serve too, and a lot of it is, it comes down to the leadership, right? If you totally fail and you don't have a good team around you, there's a ton of weight on your shoulders in any business owner, but especially one that probably, serves, people who are in need. So right. I can only imagine the stress, all while trying to sell the business, and along the way, and you mess something up, and then you lose the deal, and then you're another year is going to have to go by, and
oh, that would have been bad. That would have been bad if that happened.
So anyway, I get that. So then what was you want to sell? Was a lot of it to try to focus in on your other business, or is it kind of you just had too much going on? What was kind of what drove the decision to want to sell it? Was to simplify your life, or is it to try to pivot into something new that was more exciting because you lost some interest, or what did that look like?
Both. It was to slow down and speed up, kind of take the time to sharpen my saw, but I was also very overwhelmed, and I felt like if I pivoted and transitioned to something else, I would just be more overwhelmed. So I wanted to scale back, get myself together, and then go full throttle as I only know how. And so that's where, Rising Tide Ventures comes into play, where we acquire businesses. That's our whole business model of helping, for instance, a population of the baby boomers. They want to retire, but they may not have an exit plan. And so we can come in and buy their business because their kids may not want it either, help their legacy live on, and take care of their employees. And so it's very exciting now to be transitioned from, so I learned so much from selling a company. I learned so much about buying a company by selling a company. And so now at this phase, it's really exciting, laying all the groundwork now to be my full-time job is trying to acquire numerous businesses. So that's the next phase is very exciting.
Okay. And so that's like, I guess, part of the capital that you receive from selling the business is that's what's seeding kind of this next round of M&A, or are you also like raising money as well to do this?
Yeah. So it's twofold. Number one, using the current capital that I have, and then maybe JV deals. The second portion of this is, depending on the deal, the size, I would be willing to raise capital and creating a fund. Something I'm exploring to do. But right now it's using my own capital. Okay.
And is it a certain niche you're looking to be in? I mean, part of I think the goal would be to have some synergies between the companies, right? So like is there certain criteria you're looking for in certain industries, or is it kind of, you're going to cast a wide net and then kind of see where, you go with it?
My business coach talked about, who is from GoAbundance, Gary Kirschbaum, mentioned about casting a wide net. And I can see the pluses, the pros and cons to both being super focused and then casting a wide net. In terms of the industries, it's like home healthcare, software companies, manufacturing, and like HVAC, for instance, or plumbing in that field. And I'll get into why it's kind of a wide net and how I'm making it work. The criteria is kind of minimum of like 350,000 EBITDA of the company and all the way up to like 2 million. But what's interesting is the whole Rising Tide brand is about, the whole adage of a rising tide lifts all boats. And I have it in my office here saying that. So one of the toughest things I'm going to find is finding operators. And so how do I find operators is I can give them equity in a deal. And then after I acquire, we work out that structure, and it could be a win-win. For instance, we talk to some people through Ascend, the whole program with GoAbundance and Emerge. And so some operators are looking to own businesses as well. So that's kind of like a win-win situation I'm looking for in business.
Yeah. So why go that model versus you going out and you buying the companies and creating your own like holding company, right? Whether, I mean, maybe even holding company, but like, why not you just go out and build the business where you say, hey, I'm going to go buy a whole bunch of HVAC guys, if that's what it's going to be or whatever, and then just make this massive HVAC company where is it, and then find a good operator to run it versus, more of, I guess, a holding company model, which is like, I'm going to have a couple different businesses and a couple different things and, place operators in them. It's, I don't know. Any thoughts on that?
I'm still wrestling with that because I think that there is a possibility to do both as long as you have the momentum. Because, for instance, in my business coach says, why are you going to go back into home healthcare? You just sold. But let's just say, for instance, I have a home healthcare business and I buy, because of the net income of the business, it could have a management team in place. So I can buy one in, like, say, North Carolina, for instance, and operate, and then keep on doing it. But at the same time, that is probably the biggest decision that I'm facing is, inch wide, mile deep kind of focus compared to passing wide and having operators all over.
Yeah, that would be my...
So that is something that really focused on.
I mean, my unsolicited advice would be you take all that brain power and it's like focused in on like one thing. I heard this really good analogy. I was reading this book. I forget what it's called right now. I just started it. But anyway, he's talking about focus as a flashlight. And he talks about how you're in a dark room, and if your focus is all over the place, like this flashlight, you can't see anything. Versus like you shine it on one place, there's a clear path forward, and then you can move forward. And it's called the Breakthrough Code. That's what it's called, by Tom McCarthy. I heard him on Ed Milet the other day. And anyway, a lot of it was about that and harnessing the power of your brain and like really focusing in. And that's where you then get these huge breakthroughs, and you can have this like exponential growth.
Yes.
And I think for you, like, I don't know if I'm thinking like, the home healthcare business, I don't know what can you share what multiple you sold the business at? Like multiple of earnings? If not, it's okay.
It was 3.4.
Okay. So three point, let's just say 3.5. So right. Like there's this model where it says, and this is what we've kind of done in automotive, and for you it could be similar, where you're finding these guys, you're buying them up at like 2.5, maybe 3 times, right? As a multiple, but then their sales are like half of what they could be. So then you're going through and then you're like implementing these like proven systems that have worked like in your business and your guy in North Carolina and the guy you bought in Pennsylvania and all over the place. Right now you're doubling the profit, tripling the profit. Plus now that they're becoming part of this larger company, now instead of worth, 2x, now they're worth 3.5x, or maybe you get this thing even bigger, they're worth 4x or 5x, right? The bigger you get, the bigger the multiple. And so
exactly,
I don't know, you find a thing that's doing 300 grand, you're buying it for like, let's say 900, right? And then you get the profit up to 500 and then it's worth, times 4, it's worth like $2 million, right? Like, but then you have all these synergies of, the home healthcare and like, hey, we're trying this new thing in North Carolina and this could really work in Pennsylvania or Michigan. And like, now you have synergies and you have a leadership structure and you have like one back office that does all your AP and AR. And like, I don't know.
No, that's super smart, because that's what, one of the goals would be to sell the private equity. You have enough, private equity comes in, they go, you have all these synergies, you have this system, you have this leadership.
Yeah. And it's plug and play.
The multiple from 3.5 turns to 5 or 6, depending.
Yeah, 5, 6. Like you can get to 7, 8. Like the bigger you get, and the more they view you as like a platform that they say, hey, you're the guy that can help us get this thing from, I don't know, we're doing $3 million. We can get this thing to 5 million or 10 million. And because you're like, it's a switching of roles though. Like now you're becoming the operator to go and say, hey, I'm going to go do all this thing, but you got a whole bunch of money, off the table as well. So versus like the whole co model, like I see it, I hear guys talking about on Twitter all the time, but like for a lot of it, it's like, I don't know. I think it really works when you get some really big businesses involved, right? And you can create these parallels, and there's already operators in place. And I think a lot of times when you're buying out guys who are retiring, because we've done this, we bought out multiple guys retiring, like you need to put a new person in place right away. Yeah. But the new person you put in place, like it's new to them too. And like, I don't know, there's like risks in that. And what if it's, it's an employee and maybe he's got some equity, but maybe he's not that good operator. And then like, now you got this new business you just paid all this money for, this guy that's brand new, and like, maybe it doesn't work, right? And then now you have to step in and run this business. And then like, you're half your days running a plumbing business, half your days running like a software company, another hour of the day you're running like a home healthcare, right? Because like you don't have the infrastructure as these really good operators. Versus I think what happens is with these big guys who do these holdcos is like, they got operators that they're paying a huge amount of money that they've stolen from another big company, right, to run that thing. And it's like it's a little bit different than I think what the other ones are. But anyway, that's just my perspective. But anyway.
No, that's something that, I wrestle back and forth with, and we're still trying to redefine, because some of it too is someone may want to acquire a company and then it's almost like an angel investor, like a holding company. I'm like almost like an investor more than an operator. So it's kind of like a twofold like play of, I'm interested in these industries where I have somebody that can really execute, I can add value from the financing it. But again, the whole barrel of inch wide, mile deep.
Yeah, it's hard, and it's people wrestle with it. And plus, it sounds cool to say, "Hey, I own like all these different businesses. Like it's like a mini Berkshire, right?" That sounds cool. Like, but I don't know. I think it's harder to gain traction unless you have a ton of synergies between the business, right? We get to the back office side, like all the billing, like. And then you have all these different companies that all have CFOs and controllers and payables, right? Versus like you have one big company of like one team that handles it all. That could save you like hundreds of thousands of dollars a year that you can then, take or continue to reinvest in the business. And so like, I don't know. That's like, and I wrestle with this too. And I've thought about a lot this. That's why I'm opinionated on it. But it's really like, I think for you, it's like, hey, what are your strengths? And for you, like you said, it's like, you can motivate people, you can like lead the team, right? You've got the like vision of what you want to do. And so, I mean, if I was you, it's like you find the really good operator, the right-hand man guy who's just like, who's like a dog with the bone and just doesn't let go of the tasks. And so you can set out the vision, and then you hand off all the operations to him, and he just like fucking charges with it. And so anyway, and then that relieves you of the operational like headaches or responsibilities, and then you can continue to focus on the bigger picture and the vision and the acquisitions and all the fun stuff.
And you said it right there, all the fun stuff. Absolutely. I'll get bored in operations. So that's why it's so important to have those operators. See, sometimes they bring deals to me. So again, there's some industries I don't touch, and I agree with the whole aspect of like, again, we talked about it more and more, the whole, what you've been mentioning, like that laser focus of the flashlight in the room are just aimed at one side where you can see instead of going all over the place. Because also that's one thing I want to avoid is being all over the place. And sometimes I feel like I am. So it is narrowing that down. Just keep on going at it.
It's hard. I mean, even for anybody, and especially for you, and kind of you're in this stage now, you kind of sold the business, and now it's like, what do you do next? Like the world, like you could do anything in the world, right? You've like got the skill set, you've got the intelligence, you've got the experience, you've got the money now, like you could do anything in the world. And so then it's really a matter of, hey, where can, I guess, you have the biggest impact? Where can you help people? Like what excites you, I think is a big question. Like what gives you energy where you can just like wake up at 5 o'clock without a alarm every day and just like go at it, versus, you know, something that you're like just boring you. And it's like, why am I doing this? Why am I spending time with these people if I don't want to? And so I think that's a big question too, for a lot of people listening. It's like, what, you know, even if you're a W-2 and you want to get into a business, like you could buy any business in the world. What are you going to buy? And I think it's, I don't know, for advice, what do you think? I mean, a lot of it, you know, for you, it's the excitement of something new. It sounds like, right? It's the acquisition, it's chasing the deal. It's like, you know, I think for a lot of entrepreneurs, that's like a lot of fun. I don't know. What do you think on that?
So the way that I answer this question, first of all, I realize it's a journey. The second thing is this. Let's say that you're one of the persons that won the lottery recently. That was like $1 billion. It was like a month ago or whatever. So you would close your eyes and you envision yourself winning the lottery, and then you take home $500 million, whatever it is. What would you do with your life? And some people will say, I'll sit on the beach and do this. And it's like, bullshit. If you're an entrepreneur, you have that drive, that's not going anywhere. If anything, it's like, oh, what can I do with it? And so it's really envisioning what that looks like and then doing that. So for me, it's part of it is traveling. My wife and I bought an RV, and we're going to travel the United States with the kids because we homeschool now. So we're going to do that. But meanwhile, I can visit the businesses we're looking to buy, do a lot of the business, and it's really going to be all business, not all business, but business from the RV, because I can do the business. I want to be able to help people and impact people's lives through my Rising Tide brand in terms of speaking engagements and teaching and training entrepreneurship. And so that's what excites me.
Yep.
So I would definitely do the exercise of the latter.
Yep. Yeah, and I think that's good for a lot of people to identify what part of it. And for you, like you said, it's teaching people, and it's like, for me, it's like I have this phrase, to inspire growth. Like I want to inspire people to grow, like, because I want to grow personally, and that's what's exciting to me. And it's like, if I can help other people do the same thing, then that's what gives me fulfillment, right? Is to see other people progress and grow. And so I think a lot of it is just figuring out what excites you, and then how can you apply that. And the other thing I think is like, it doesn't matter what the business is. Like, I think it's just you stick to one and you enjoy, like you find the parts that you enjoy, whether it's teaching people or watching them grow, or it's the finance or the numbers or the marketing, right? Like all businesses are kind of the same at the end of the day. We drive customers, you know, we got to control costs, right? We got to like grow, we deal with challenges. It's just more of what are the types of problems you want to solve, and then finding a business that, you know, you can solve those problems in, you know?
Yeah, that's a good point. What problems do you want to solve? And that's another good question. I think is a good way to question what you want to do moving forward. And all of a sudden selling and now going, okay, I have a little bit of money and now I can do whatever. It's like a wake-up call. Sometimes I feel myself busier than I was previously in selling. And it's like, slow my horses, no rush. So that's the part too that's interesting.
Yep. So who's been a big like mentor for you along the way? You mentioned your coach. I don't know if there's anybody else in your life who, you know, has impacted you, and what do you think they taught you?
Well, I think a couple of things. It's a couple of mentors and coaches through Go Abundance. Gary Kirschpaul, Paul Slow is to name a couple. And I would say my Go Abundance pods are some of the biggest impacts, and people in this Go Abundance generally. That's where I've looked to. That's one of the reasons why I joined Go Abundance, is those authentic relationships, but also just learning not only business, but also personal and marriage and advice and things of that nature. I think that is the biggest. And I think through reading, I read every single day, at least I try to. And one of my heroes is Benjamin Franklin. And his wit, the way he interacted with people, his entrepreneurship spirit was just phenomenal. My dad, he passed away, 4 or 5 years ago, but he was always a big influence, and I'm inspired by him and my kids. So that's kind of, and my faith is a big part. So those kind of all together is what drives me.
Yeah, that's awesome. For anyone listening who doesn't know, Go Abundance is a group of entrepreneurs who, work together, and we mastermind and we talk through ideas, just like the conversation Paul and I are having. We have virtually, you can have in a small group, you can be at a national convention, at a local meetup, and lots of different ways to connect with other like-minded, because the men's group is what we're in. And obviously they have a women's group as well. So anybody can go to goabundance.com and learn about it if they're interested. But it's been life-changing for both of us. And a lot of people I've had on the show and a lot of my friends, and kind of as your network grows, you start to surround yourself with better and better people. And it's great to be part of a group like that where everyone is constantly upping their game, and you're working to up your game too, in a fun, but competitive way too. So awesome. So where can people connect if they're interested in learning kind of more about what you're up to, or if they have a business they want to sell or chat about with some advice? Where can they get in contact with you? So
this week, my website should be going live, and my new email, but I'll just give you my old email, Gallagher, Pgallagher 88 at yahoo.com. That's my first email ever. I still have it, utilize it, but it's going to be changing to like the Paul at risingtide.com and stuff like that. But for right now, Gallagher 88 at yahoo.com.
Awesome. Well, yeah, we'll link it up in the comments there as well, so they'll be able to get that. And cool. I appreciate you coming on the show and sharing your story. Pretty inspiring. I mean, you took it, the path from being an employee to starting your own business and just figuring out, selling it for a couple $1,000,000, and then continuing now to grow off in the next thing, and, be able to impact a lot of people kind of with your knowledge, experience, your coaching. So it's really cool.
One last thing, Brian, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
I love reading, and I want to recommend a book. It's one of my favorite of all time. It's The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari by Robin Sharma. It's just in the fantastic.
Can you say that again? Because I didn't understand it. What was it again?
The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari.
The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari.
Yes.
Okay. What's it about? That's an interesting title. Obviously, it's
it's a high-profile attorney that was super rich and drove a Ferrari, and him having a heart attack, and decided he was just going to leave the firm and sell his business. And he went to travel, went with monks, and learned a way to live much better, these different principles. And then he went back and taught his pupil or one of the business partners at the firm, and he did the same thing. And so there's different principles, a way of learning, kind of like a monk way of living. It's pretty spectacular.
That's awesome. Cool. We'll link that up. It's cool. I'll have to check it out. It's a new one on the list there. So awesome. Cool. Thanks again for coming on and sharing your story. I think it's been great, and I appreciate your time.
Man, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
All right. Thanks, Paul. That's all we got for this episode with the Business with Beers podcast. One thing that would really help both us and other new potential listeners is to rate the show and leave a comment in iTunes, Stitcher, wherever you listen. Also, make sure to link up with me on your preferred social media platforms, LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. You can find all my links at brianbeers.com. Please just share the podcast with anyone who you think might enjoy it. And until next time, remember to take the actions others won't, to live the life that others don't.